I'm Nathan Whitaker. Today I'm an author. I've written a number of books and have been fortunate enough to have some of those books do really well. I've been able to work with some really neat people. The first book I ever wrote was with Tony Dungy. You can see my name there down below with Nathan Whitaker. I also got to write a book with a guy named Tim Tebow. And again, I'm in the tiny print underneath. But my path in getting there was not as straightforward as you might think. I grew up in Gainesville, Florida. Big Gator fan, really wanted to go to the University of Florida, played sports. I played baseball and football, played a little bit of basketball in high school, but primarily a baseball and football player. And had the chance to go to college to play both sports. I was not recruited by the University of Florida, which had been my goal, and really thought I would be a big-time Gator. Instead, I was not at that level, so I went to Duke University. So I played for the Blue Devils. I played baseball for a year and then played football for all 4 years and played for a guy named Steve Spurrier that some of you might have heard of, who later then went to become the head coach of the Gators. So I went to college at Duke and was thinking that maybe I was interested in some sort of writing, maybe journalism, maybe writing for a newspaper, writing about sports. I wasn't sure. First, I really wanted to pursue my sports career as far as I could. I was hoping that maybe I could play football or baseball professionally, maybe just at least make it into the minor leagues in baseball and then see where things went. But unfortunately, at least for me at the time, what I thought my plans were, unfortunately for me, I didn't make it in either one of those. I was a college player who just didn't play a lot. And so I had a good experience with that from the standpoint of getting to meet teammates and to work with great coaches. But from an on-the-field standpoint, it didn't work out like I'd hoped. And so when I finished college, I had to figure out what to do next. Now, one of the good pieces of advice I'd gotten from my parents all along was to do as well as I could in school with my grades and help that open doors with the better grades than what I would have done ordinarily. My first semester in college, I didn't work very hard and really thought it doesn't matter. I'm already here. I'm just going to end up playing sports for a career. Who cares what my grades are like? My parents convinced me otherwise, and I'm glad they did because I ended up doing well in school after that first semester. So I graduated from Duke, didn't know what I wanted to do exactly, thought maybe I wanted to write, but wasn't exactly sure how that would pan out. I was an English major, so I'd studied lots of literature, but hadn't done a whole lot of kind of newspaper writing like I thought maybe I wanted to do. So I was going to take the different entrance exams for law school or for business school or for other graduate programs, and took the one for law school first. And the test went really well. And I ended up deciding to go the law school route. Didn't really want to be a lawyer, but thought maybe it would give me 3 years of more schooling to figure out exactly what I wanted to do. So I ended up going to Harvard Law School. Great experience for me. Met some really, really smart people far smarter than I am. And so I graduated from law school, still not totally sure what I wanted to do. Still loved sports, loved being around sports, but didn't know exactly how I would get into sports if that was something I wanted to do. So I ended up working for a federal judge, spent 2 years working for, he's a United States district judge. Really smart person. So I've had the benefit of being surrounded by really smart people and learning from them, much smarter than I am. And so I spent 2 years clerking for Judge Hodges. And then I went into a law firm. It was a big law firm in North Carolina, great group of people. They did great work. It just didn't turn out to be work I enjoyed. I was right that I wasn't sure I wanted to be an attorney. So I spent almost 2 years working for this law firm and then was able to get a job with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I had written letters and had talked to a number of folks from the NCAA headquarters in Kansas City at the time, which is now in Indianapolis, Indiana. Had talked to the Kansas City Royals about working in their organization, and then ended up getting a job with the Jacksonville Jaguars, which was great for me. It was a chance to get back to Florida. And so I spent 2 years, almost 3 years with the Jaguars. I was doing contract negotiations, salary cap work, as far as negotiating contracts with the players and then making sure the salaries fit under the salary cap and the like. In fact, you can see the Jaguars helmet from my time there, as well as my Duke helmet from my time at Duke. And so I had a chance to work for the Jaguars. Great experience, really interesting people. We won a lot of games when I was there, and that was a terrific experience for me. In fact, the first thing I did in Jacksonville that was really something I never could have anticipated for a job was that I was in charge of travel. So I had to negotiate the contracts. I had to find the best deal with the airlines. So I'm talking to Delta Airlines and Northwest Airlines and United Airlines and others, and trying to figure out the best way to get our team from Jacksonville to each game and back. Talking to hotels, both in Jacksonville, we spent the night in a hotel the night before the game, and then also wherever we were playing. So I'm having to talk to Cincinnati hotels and hotels in Nashville and hotels in Cleveland and Pittsburgh. And sometimes I had to go travel. And so I would fly to Pittsburgh and stay and visit 2 or 3 or 4 hotels to see where I thought our players might like to stay. And then lining up buses and whatever it took to get us from our headquarters in Jacksonville to the airport in Jacksonville to wherever the other city was, and then to the hotel, and then to the game, and then back home. And so that was something I never could have anticipated and really had no experience in and had to learn on the fly, and was kind of an interesting thing for me. So I spent those 3 years in Jacksonville and then went with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I joined the Tampa Bay Bucs for Tony Dungy's final season as the head coach of the Tampa Bay Bucs. And I showed you a minute ago Tony's book. And then Tony left there after my first year. He was fired, actually. He left and went to the Indianapolis Colts, where he coached for a number more years. I stayed on 2 more years with the Buccaneers. We hired John Gruden as our head coach. I was doing scouting, salary cap work, dealing with the players and the like, and a variety of things, and was working right under our general manager, and was hoping that that might turn into a general manager position for me down the road. My second year in Tampa, our first year with John Gruden, we won the Super Bowl. And so I got this really nice, big, crazy ring, especially for my little hands, and was offered a job by the Chicago Bears to be their assistant general manager. So I thought, well, this is great. This is amazing. I've been with Jacksonville for a couple of years, then Tampa for 2 years at that time, and now the Bears want to hire me. But the Bucs denied me leaving. I was under contract to Tampa Bay, and so they had the right to keep me there, and they chose to do that. And they said, Nathan, we've got big plans for you right here. We don't want to lose you, and we want you to stay, and maybe you'll grow into a position as a GM or something else right here in Tampa. A year later, they hired a new general manager to replace the guy who'd hired me that I worked for, and the new guy fired me. And so I went from being a Super Bowl champ that the Chicago Bears wanted to being out of a job in a year. And so I had to figure out, what do I do now? Looked at a variety of things and ended up having this idea to write a book about Tony Dungy, that Tony was such a great person to work for. He had such great values, really always focused, much like the judge I'd worked for, much like my parents always taught me growing up. He always preached integrity, doing the right thing, being a person of faith, keeping your family involved in your life, and not abandoning the things you find important just because of a job or whatever else it might be in your life. And so I talked to Tony. It took me 3 years to talk him into it. I kept saying, Tony, you've got a lot to share. And he said, I don't know if anybody would want to listen to me. And so it took me 3 years to talk him into it. And finally, we came out with Tony's book. And the publisher had said, hopefully we'd sell 100,000 copies, which would have been great. That seems like a huge number to me. And so far, Tony's book has sold in 12 or 13 years since it came out in 2007. It has sold 3 million copies. Tim Tebow's book has sold another million, I think, the last I'd heard. Probably more than that now. And I've done a number of other books with Tony and with other people. And so it's been an amazing blessing, but a real curve to my career, where I thought I was on a path to either be a sports writer, or then later thought I was going to be an attorney. Maybe wasn't totally sold on that, but tried it for a while. And then thought, well, I'll be a general manager in football. And in fact, when I was with the Bucs and then the Bears tried to hire me and couldn't, I then had a conversation with the Colorado Rockies, Major League Baseball team. And so I wasn't even wedded to football. I thought maybe I'll be a general manager in football, or maybe I can transition into baseball, a sport I know as well. And instead, none of those doors opened the way I thought they would. And so here I thought I was on one path, and then another path, and then another path, and ended up now doing something for 13 years that has been fantastic. That goes back to me loving to read, me being an English major in college, but something that I never would have foreseen as a career. Certainly not even as recent as 15 years ago. I'm now 51 years old, and when I was 35, 36, I was still working for the Bucks and really thought that was my plan. So, my takeaways have been, don't give up, keep pushing, do as well as you can with your grades, whatever your current job is. You never know what doors will open because of those things or because of other things. And also I've learned as you transition from one job or one setting from another, not to burn your bridges. So when I left Tampa, I didn't complain or argue. Same with Jacksonville. They may have fired me, but that didn't mean I had to make a scene or act in any way. And in fact, remain not only very friendly, but keep getting invited back for events with the Buccaneers. And so that's been a great thing to have that door stay open as well. So I've learned to do well along the way, at least as well as I can. Surround myself with plenty of really smart people and not to be too concerned when I realize that they're smarter than I am. Learn whatever I can. And then just figure out whatever doors are opening. And sometimes they're totally different doors than you ever might have thought of. Certainly have been for me. Doors that I wouldn't have thought, things that I wouldn't have anticipated. And now I'm getting to work with really interesting people and talk to really fun folks on a regular basis. So that's my story. I wish you the best as you chart out your course, your journey, and remember that your story is never final, that things may look bleak at times or things may be going great, but either way, just keep pushing along. God bless and Godspeed. Thank you.